let's break down some of the lyrics in Zay Frank's new hit single, Pigeon Love. So it's this newest short that he released recently. And I'll just... You don't puke in my mouth no more. There we go. Those specific lyrics right there. You don't puke in my mouth no more. So I wanted to remind you guys, for those of you who've been watching for roughly the last 2 years since I first started posting videos about Zay Frank, keep in mind, I've been posting this entire time talking about how I think he's a part of a cult network that engages in child abuse and child trafficking. And I said in that video at the time that I had already been researching Zay Frank for so long, leading up to that video, and seen his face and heard his voice so many times that if I ever had to meet him in real life, I would probably end up just spewing chunks all over his face. To which he responded with his own video. The next video he released on his channel after I put that video out was about the sea cucumbers. So you can go back and look at the sea cucumbers video that he made. And one of the very first scenes in that video is of sea cucumbers spewing essentially ejaculate all over each other. So that was his response to my saying that if I ever met him in real life, I would probably just spew chunks all over his face. So yeah, and I don't know if you guys know this, but your mouth is in your face. So and that's always how I kind of imagined it too. If that ever actually happened, that I would end up just projectile vomiting into Zay Frank's face while his mouth is open, and some of it would get into his mouth, and he would get so grossed out that he would start throwing up. Oh, that would be amazing. That's a feel-good thought right there. I like that one. Anyway. So yeah, I do think that he chose his words or his lyrics for this song very carefully. I think he chose those words very specifically for me because that was one of the very first things that I said about him or to him officially in video on YouTube, was that if I ever had to meet him in real life, I would probably spew chunks all over his face, throw up in his face. And I've already recently I made some videos and a blog post talking about how the pigeon is sort of, it's a representation of certain things in esoteric, philosophical, religious terms, but also in this case, it sort of represents me, if for no other reason than because I made a blog post comparing myself to the goddess Inanna, the Babylonian goddess Inanna, her symbol is the dove, or the dove and the pigeon are interchangeably used to represent the same thing. They are the same animal. All right, so and for those of you who are thinking, well, no, Kat, he just used those lyrics because he said in his video that pigeons like to throw up, like to puke in each other's mouths, as it's part of their courting ritual, their mating ritual. Yes, he did point that out. He specifically pointed that out. Look at it this way. There are a lot of facts, very interesting facts about the pigeon that Zay Frank chose to leave out of his video that he didn't talk about at all. So one of those facts, for example, is this is something I learned back when I was an art student in Chicago. We're talking about better part of 20 years ago now. Did you guys know that pigeons produce milk? It's true. They produce like a milky white substance. Here, I pulled up the results here. I wanted to double check because I learned this like better part of 20 years ago, and I wanted to double check my facts. But here we go. Pigeons produce a milk-like substance called crop milk to feed their young, called squabs, during the first week of their lives. So yeah, that's sort of a backup survival skill that they have. If one of the parenting pigeons fails to return to watch over the nest, then the remaining partner can just stay on the nest and continue to feed the offspring with this sort of milky substance that they can produce from the pores in their chest, in between the feathers, and their babies can eat that. So I think that's a very interesting fact about the pigeon. And why would he leave that out? I mean, there are all kinds of jokes he could have made out of that too. So that's just me I'm just trying to make you understand that he very specifically chose certain things to talk about when it came to the pigeon, because he had a very specific message he wanted to get across. All right. And I'm sort of blanking now, and if there was anything else I wanted to point out about this. I think there's more about this song specifically that I will probably get into later. But I think that's probably good enough for this video. Yeah, you don't puke in my mouth no more. So, yeah, I'm sorry, guys, but, like, he's referencing me. I'm trying not to sound narcissistic here. I've been, for, 2 to 3 years now, releasing videos and talking about how I think Ze Frank is a part of a cult that engages in child abuse. He has certainly heard about me by now. I doubt very much that all of the mean little trolls that frequent my YouTube channel and leave nasty messages, comments, I doubt very much that none of them have ever sent him a link and been like, hey, this chick is saying you're in a cult. Although I do think that those people who are the trolls are gang stalkers, and they were hired specifically to harass me on my YouTube channel, hired specifically by Ze Frank and or some of the other members in his network. This is a network. It's a cult. It's a group of people that are, for lack of a better word, conspiring to get away with child abuse. Because, obviously, we know that child traffickers will do that. They don't want to get caught. So what are they going to do? They're going to conspire to trick people and not get caught. So, yeah, it's late, and I need to grab a shower and get to bed. But I'm tempted to say I would love to puke in your mouth, Say. But then I'd have to see you face to face. That's the drawback to that. So yeah, guys, if nothing else, this is meant to point out to you, artists, when we create things, we typically have a point that we start off with. We have an idea or a point or a statement that we're trying to get across, and we will sort of cherry pick the symbols and words that we're using, or facts that we're using, and presenting in order to get that point across. So again, there are a lot of things he could have talked about when it comes to the pigeon. He chose to talk about how they puke in each other's mouths as part of a courting ritual. Yeah. All right, I'm going to leave it there. Oh my gosh, I'm surrounded by boy cats. boy cats everywhere. Hi, baby boy. Yeah, hi. All right. Good night, guys.